A hearty good evening to everyone, and what a great crowd we have here tonight for this City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, January 17th, and we're certainly pleased to have everybody here. We will start the City of Sioux Falls City Council meeting with a roll call of the City Councilors that are present here tonight.
Council members Brown.
Here.
Intiman.
Here.
Herpenbach.
Here.
Jameson.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Rolfing.
Here.
Aguilar.
Yeah, here.
Anderson.
Here.
All 8 City Councilors are present. We're so pleased to have Pastor Phil Tague from the Ransom Church here. Pastor Phil will give us our invocation tonight. What we'd ask you to do is to please stand, and then after Pastor Phil is done with the invocation, we'll then proceed with a pledge of allegiance. Pastor Phil.
As we begin tonight, I think it would just be appropriate to take a moment of silence on behalf of Governor Janklow. Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening very aware in a moment like this that we are just men, and our lives are but a breath, they're but a mist, and then they're gone. And so we pray in these moments that you've given us between birth and death that our lives stand for something, that they stand for things that are real and meaningful and that leave a legacy. I pray for this meeting. I pray for the men and the women who sit on this council, for the mayor, for those who make decisions on behalf of our city. I pray for the individuals who come from our city to share their hearts and share their petitions and to share their concerns with this council. And I just pray that you would give us wisdom as decisions are made, so that as we move forward, we are not just making arbitrary decisions, but we are leaving a legacy. Pray your hand on this meeting in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a hearty good evening to everybody. It is a wonderful crowd, and we've got so many young men in the audience tonight, and we'll certainly introduce all of you later on. But first, I do want to start off with a proclamation. And is there someone here with the National Mentoring Month group? Great, please come forward. Would you mind introducing yourself to the people of Sioux Falls?
Michelle Madsen.
And
Luke Yost.
thanks, Luke.
Yep.
Thank you. Well, Michelle and Luke, I do have a proclamation that I would like to read on your behalf. Whereas January 2012 is the 11th annual Mentoring Month, as declared by the National Mentoring Partnership, this year's theme is Invest in the Future, Mentor a Child. Whereas sustained relationships with positive adult role models are essential in the successful development of all children and adolescents. Whereas mentoring relationships between adults and children are known to improve academic performance, increase self-esteem, and build confidence in young people. Whereas mentoring, in addition to preparing young people for school, work, and life, is extremely rewarding for those serving as mentors. Whereas hundreds of young people in Sioux Falls are in need of caring adult mentors. Whereas a designation of January 2012 as National Mentoring Month will help call attention to the critical role mentors play in helping young people realize their potential. Whereas the goal of National Mentoring Month is to raise awareness of mentoring in its various forms, recruit individuals to mentor, and promote the rapid growth of mentoring by recruiting organizations to engage their constituents in mentoring. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim January 2012 as National Mentoring Month in Sioux Falls. Thank you. The proclamation was absolutely perfect for tonight's meeting, as we're very, very fortunate to have Boy Scout Troop number 46 here in the audience, along with a number of their mentors. And if I could ask all of Troop 46 to stand up, please, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. We're certainly pleased to have you here. And there must be another troop in the audience. And what is that? What's the name of that troop? 152? And we also have Troop 152. If you could stand, we'd also appreciate it. As all of you know, Boy Scouts are not managed on their own. They're not led on their own. They're not mentored on their own. There are good stewards who give their time and their talent and their treasure in so many different ways, and it's women and men like all of you who are doing that. It's also with that in mind that I would like to have another moment of silence because I think the young people in the room, if you could just take to heart, there was a leader in our city and a leader in our state. His name was Governor, we knew him mostly as Governor Bill Janklow. And if you get an opportunity to learn more and more about Governor Janklow and the legacy that Pastor Phil even talked about, I would encourage you to do that. But with that regard and in all due respect, what we would like to do is just have a moment of silence to remember a man who just had an incredible impact, not only on the state, but also on the city of Sioux Falls. If we could just have a moment of silence. Thank you all. We'll now move on to tonight's meeting, and we'll move on with the consent agenda. Is there a...
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
I need to excuse myself.
Councilor Inman, thank you. Council, are there any questions or comments or motions on tonight's consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Councilor Aguilar, thank you.
Second, Anderson.
There has been a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. It was made by Councilor Aguilar, seconded by Councilor Anderson, Jr. Is there any discussion on this? Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Brown,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to tonight's regular agenda. Council, any discussions on tonight's regular agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Erpenbach.
I'd move approval of the regular agenda.
Second, Aguilar.
There has been a motion to approve tonight's regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Is there any discussion?
Mr.
Councilor
Mayor,
Erpenbach.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the main motion and the regular agenda by adding items 21, 22, and 23 as read by the Assistant City Clerk.
21, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by revising Chapter 14 of the Campaign Finance Ordinance for municipal elections. 22, a motion to create the appointed position of Legislative Operations Manager to perform professional, administrative, and communication work in the coordination of the management of the day-to-day operations of the City Council and serve as liaison and professional staff support to the Sioux Falls City Council while mentoring and analyzing legislative activities on a federal, state, and local level with a full job description to be on file with the Human Resources Department, and to create a pay scale for the Legislative Operations Manager with a minimum biweekly range of $2,292.80 and a maximum biweekly range of $3,300. 23, a motion to revise the job duties of the appointed position of the city clerk to perform administrative, professional, and communication work in the management of the day-to-day operations and activities of the city clerk's office with a full job description to be on file with the Human Resources Department, and to create a pay scale for the city clerk with a minimum biweekly range of $1,936 and a maximum biweekly range of $2,727.20.
Jamie, thank you. Is there a second?
Second Aguilar?
Councilor Aguilar has seconded that motion. Is there any discussion on these items? Very good. The people of Sioux Falls, just to let you know, to add these items onto the agenda, we'll need 6 yeses out of the 8 to move this forward. So with that in mind, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to yes. Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you. We now have an amended main motion. Is there any further discussion on tonight's regular agenda? Hearing none, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. That has passed 8-0. Thanks again, Jamie. Appreciate it. We'll now move on to tonight's public input. Young and old alike in the audience, if any of you would like to speak to the City Council, we'd encourage you to do so. Just come forward and just state your name for the people of Sioux Falls. And we'd also just ask you to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Staley, and I'm here tonight to invite the council, the mayor, the media, and the public to come to the Urban Agricultural Task Force meeting, which will be held this Friday, the 20th, at the Downtown Library at 2:30. I had a meeting with Kevin Smith a few weeks ago about this, asking him why this whole issue came about. And he said that apparently this last summer there was a family that had like 20-some chickens in their backyard. And also there had been a complaint about a goat that someone had. And so they looked into the ordinances, and there was no limit to the amount of chickens that you could have in your backyard. So apparently then they decided, the Land Use Committee gave Rex Relfing and Dean Karski the authority to form a task force. So some of us have been going to these meetings, and they've opened this up to not only looking at chickens and if we want to let people have chickens and raise meat for sustainability and eggs, but talking about different land uses as far as gardening goes. So I think it's important that we have the community come and listen and give. I'm really excited, Rex, that you're going to allow public input. Is that correct at this one? I see it's on the agenda. Is that correct? Yes. And so people can come and testify. And if you are interested in gardening, or if you have a feeling about letting people raise food, especially during these economic times, come to this meeting. Also, the meeting was originally scheduled for last week, and I want to say thank you to Shauna Goldhammer, because she did an excellent job of informing people via email that meeting had been changed. However, I did receive calls from several people who are not on the email connection with the city, and they didn't know about it. So in the future, when we're going to be changing a meeting for the task force, I'd like that to be in the paper, or at least have the TV stations and have some notification so people aren't showing up and uninformed. So once again, inviting people to come down to the library Friday, 2:30, and I know at the first meeting I went to, there were a lot of people attending that, and I could tell that they wanted to speak. So 2:30 Friday at the library. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Mr. Weiderman, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. First, let me state, I do appreciate the opportunity to be able to address the respectable council. I do not enjoy the publicity that comes with it. Mr. Mayor, if you so desire, I will obtain the services of a bondsman. I've had to do so before to come to these meetings. It is the feeling of a number of people that observed in person or by word of mouth the spectacle that showed up or that appeared on the sidewalk after the last council meeting. And that was, this was done with all intentions, it appeared, to provoke Mr. Stanga into creating a physical confrontation. In this way, Mr. Mayor, it appeared that you'd be able to put a restraining order against Mr. Stanga and possibly myself, and thereby restrict his being at the council meetings. Such tactics are used in larger cities, Mr. Mayor. They're not needed in Sioux Falls. Mayor Uther states in the Argus that he had nothing to do with the committee that he recruited and appointed to the Charter Revision Committee. Mr. Uther's words, or I should say Mayor Uther's words, I played no role in the latest proposal to give the mayor's office more control. Remember, this is the mayor who wants more control, as stated this. Takes me back to the statement by Mr. Clinton, our former president. I did not have sex with that woman. The key element there was the word is. I attended the meetings where the council moved to seconded and approved the rules, as they are now full well remember the mayor being very upset at this. At the previous city council meeting, this same mayor chastised a few of us for chastising him for the power grab play. He took the meeting out to the parking lot and continued to harangue him and stated to me he would not talk to me. The few times I said very politely, Mr. Mayor, if you have ever seen the look of hate, and I have, I saw it that evening in Mayor Huther's vociferous statement to me, Mr. Weideman, I will not talk to you. This from an elected official that is supposed to be representing the populace of Sioux Falls, not the special few as it appears to be being done at this time. The mayor goes on to state that there are citizens in Sioux Falls that differ in their opinions from the city council, which is a good thing, very good thing. Joe Kirby being one of them, who lives in California. Just recently he obtained the voter registration and a driver's license. Obviously that's the reason he was asked to be on the committee, and is the one who drew up the proposal for and on behalf of Mayor Uther. Ironically, as the mayor so desired and had the appointed city attorney prepare the recommended charter revision. Please, Mr. Pfeiffer, this has no bearing on you because we know you're an appointed member of the city, so it was part of your job to do this. It is pointed out that the recommended revision only took the committee less than 3 hours to come up with. Yet, so says the Honorable Mayor, he didn't have his input in any way of it. Yeah, right, Mayor. You can buffalo some of the people some of the time, but some of us just are not buffaloable. The mayor belittled myself and Tim Stang at the meeting of City Council, and out on the sidewalk after the meeting. I believe in Robert's Rules of Order. It states that after one speaks, if someone talks against what was stated, the original speaker has time for rebuttal. The mayor didn't want this, so the meeting was requested to be adjourned. This committee that was appointed by the mayor needs to be disbanded. The committee needs to be disbanded and all the recommendations thrown out, and another committee appointed by the council members and the mayor.
Mr. Weideman, thank you. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak to the council? Very good. Thank you very much for that input, Teresa and Mr. Weideman. Item number 12.
Transfer of a 2011-12 retail malt beverage license from Michelle P. Dill, Michelle's 324 South Phillips Avenue, to No Tay Ray LLC, MB Haskett, to be operated at 324 South Phillips Avenue with the conditional use permit being approved in 2005. 13, transfer of a 2012 retail wine license from Michelle P. Dill, Michelle's 324 South Phillips Avenue, to No Tay Ray LLC, MB Haskett, to be operated at 324 South Phillips Avenue with the conditional use permit being approved in 2005.
Lori, welcome.
Thank you. Lori Hufstad with the City Attorney's Office here for items 12 and 13. As Jamie read, these are both transfers. Same location, just new ownership for this particular business. I can answer questions if you have any on items 12 and 13.
Council, any questions at all? Very good. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Move to approve Anderson.
Second, Entenmann. Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve items 12 and 13, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 14.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2011-1201 to Chapter 15.45070, Plan Development Districts at 5124 South Solberg Avenue, amending the Interstate Crossings Plan Development District Subarea Regulations. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Mr. Cooper, welcome.
Good evening. I'm Mike Cooper, representing City Planning and Building Services. Tonight we have a number of proposals that have been considered by the City Planning Commission. Item 14 is a petition by Interstate Crossing Development Corporation, represented by Dennis Bresky. This involves property located north of Interstate 229 and east of Interstate 29 that was originally approved in 1998 as an office park development. Over the years, as the city has changed and development has occurred, the property owners believe now that there's a different market for some of the property, and so they are now requesting that the zoning be amended by adding additional land uses, which would include retail trade, hotels, and restaurants. And this property consists of approximately 39 acres. Again, the petition is to amend the allowed land uses by adding additional commercial type development. The Planning Commission has reviewed this and has recommended approval.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Council, this is the first reading. Any questions or comments? Would anybody like to set a hearing and second reading for the meeting of Monday, February 6th at 7 p.m.?
So moved. Brown.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Brown's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 15.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending Appendix B, the zoning ordinance of the revised ordinances of the city by amending Board of Adjustment public notice. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This item involves a change to our zoning ordinance that would address public notification requirements by our Zoning Board of Adjustment. The Zoning Board of Adjustment is an appointed board that is given the responsibility to consider requests for variances of the zoning ordinance, as well as administrative appeals. This board typically deals with things like setback revisions, fence height, things that involve specific properties. And after discussing it with the Board of Adjustment as well as the Council Land Use Committee, the proposal that's before you would be to increase the time frame of the sign posting from 5 to 10 days prior to the meeting, as well as now requiring a written notice to the abutting property owners of each particular request on the monthly agenda. Again, I'll remind the council that this is a little different than the Planning Commission because they're not dealing with land use issues that might be more of a neighborhood issue. The Board of Adjustment is typically dealing with specific property issues. So we believe that this is a reasonable change to the current procedure We would like to implement this, and again, kind of look at it after a year and come back with any further recommendations to you to see how it's been implemented.
Council, another first reading. Any questions, comments, or motions? Would anybody like to make a motion to set a hearing and second reading for the meeting of Monday, February 6th at 7 p.m. for this item?
So moved, Rolfing. Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Rolfing's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. Is there any further discussion? If not, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann.
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 16.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 1701 East 54th Street North from the I-1 Light Industrial District to the I-2 Heavy Industrial District, petition number 2011-1108, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition submitted by Dave Van Tol, representing Vanderhags Incorporated, which is an existing truck salvage business located on the east side of North Cliff Avenue. And this particular zoning request would be to allow the change in zoning to the east of the existing business over towards a National Avenue between 54th Street North and approximately 50th Street North. This would change the zoning of about 16 acres of land from light industrial to heavy industrial to allow additional storage of trucks. Part of this petition for zoning change also involves discussions about possibly vacating a portion of National Avenue. As we've discussed this with the petitioner as well as members of city engineering, we would like to defer this, or request a deferral by the council to the February 21st council meeting, and that will give us a little more time to work through the coordination of not only the zoning change, but also looking at the issue of the vacation of National Avenue. And Mr. Van Tol is aware of the request for the deferral.
So would anybody consider that?
Do we need a motion just to defer, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So move, Anderson.
Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Anderson's made that motion to defer this item to Tuesday, February 21st, and it was seconded by Councilor Entenmann. Is there any discussion at all on that? Councilor Anderson Jr.?
I'd actually had the chance to go up and tour the facility and see some of the challenges with changing the zoning and also vacating the National Avenue, as that is supposed to be the through street from Benson Road to 60th Street North. So I would encourage any of the council members to actually go up and take a look at this area, because it's a very growing area and it's changing all the time up in that area also. And take a look at some of the changes that they are requesting, and maybe even speak to Mr. Van Tol about this. He's very open to speaking to anybody on this. And I think the big thing will be is talking to his neighbors to the north and south of him to see how we can relook at that whole zone up there.
Thank you, Councilor. If there is no further discussion, we do have a motion to defer this item. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 17.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at east side of Spring Avenue between 13th Street and 14th Street from the RA2 Residential District to the Gigglebees Redevelopment Plan Development District, petition number 2011-1206, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition submitted by Lloyd Companies. This involves the west half of the property commonly known as the Gigglebees Block. This would be along the east side of Spring Avenue between 13th and 14th Streets. The petitioner is proposing to develop this property into multifamily residential. The property is currently zoned RA2, which is our highest density of multifamily development allowed. The request is to change that into a planned development zoning district, which will give us more review in terms of the building characteristics, the parking, and so forth. So if the council does approve this zoning change, there will be an additional public hearing before the Planning Commission of what we call a final development plan. In this case, the petitioner is proposing to construct a 4-story apartment building of 31 units, and this is approximately 1 acre of land. Again, a final development plan would be required by the Planning Commission. Prior to the Planning Commission hearing, there was a neighborhood meeting held. We did have one neighbor testify at the Planning Commission, and we have discussed with Mr. Lloyd about having another neighborhood meeting prior to the second reading by the City Council. We do know that there are some questions about the proposal in terms of the type of development, how it fits into the neighborhood. One of the things that we've discussed is that this is similar to the Volunteers of America as well as the St. Joseph Catholic Housing. Both of those are multifamily projects within the Pettigrew Heights neighborhood. Both of those are 4-story apartments, and both of those have been or are being constructed adjacent to single-family residential. So I know that's a consideration that you will be thinking about as you vote on this at second reading. So those are some of the background details on this particular request.
Yes, Councilor Urbanbach.
Question, Mike. If you're going to have yet another neighborhood meeting prior to second reading, would you let council know that? I know that we don't often get invited to meetings like that, but if you'd let us know that, that might be helpful. As you and I spoke earlier this week, there are some folks that are concerned about that, and I'd like them to have that opportunity as well, even though they might not live right in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mike, for this type of development with 31 units, how many parking spaces should be associated with this development?
Yeah, I believe that the type of housing that's being proposed on here would be 1.251. Okay, 1.5 for 2 bedrooms and 2 for 3-bedroom units. So there's a mix of units that are being proposed. They are providing, or with their site plan, they'll be providing parking around the building to the south and to the east.
Do we know how many parking spaces
Yes, they do
are
meet
going
the
to be
zoning.
needed, though, for the entire
Yes.
complex?
Based on the information that we've been looking at, they do meet, or they will be able to meet the parking requirements without any reduction.
Councilor Rolfing.
Mike, this will be full rent, market rent housing?
This is going to be a request for tax credit housing.
Tax, explain.
That will be assisted, it will be below market rents.
Below market rents?
Yes.
And are the other two that were mentioned, are they the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Ms. Cooper, with all the Boy Scouts in the room, would you mind pointing out where Giggleby's is?
Sure.
As well as, is there any, can you relay any hope or any thoughts on the Giggleby's property in terms of what could happen with that? And council, I hope you understand my questioning with the Boy Scouts in the room.
Yeah, the Giggleby's block, the namesake is from one of the previous uses of the vacant building that's at the southeast corner of the block, which was called Giggleby's, and which was kind of a destination for a lot of people over the years. That building and the east half of the block is currently owned by a local bank. The bank is looking at potential commercial uses for that property. Right now, we don't have anything specific for consideration. I know that Mr. Lloyd has also been talking about options for that property. But we believe that that east half of the block will eventually be some type of a commercial and/or office use.
Not a Giggleby's.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of a gateway into the downtown area. It's also the very corner of what we call the Pettigrew Heights neighborhood.
Thank you. Council, if there are, yes, Councilor Entman.
I'm going to move to approve the first reading.
Very good.
Second, Karski.
Very good. There has been a motion to set a hearing and second reading for the meeting of Monday, February 6th at 7 p.m. for this item. It was made by Councilor Endemann, seconded by Councilor Karski. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. And for the Boy Scouts in the room, these are all what we call first readings. Normally, you'd have an opportunity to engage the council on a second reading, but these are first readings, so what we're doing is basically just bringing forth these items for the very first time to the people of Sioux Falls. But on the second reading, on all these dates that they just approved, then you can come and ask any questions or comment on any of these as well. Item number 18.
Deferred action from the meetings of September 19th and October 3rd, 2011, a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the revised preliminary plan of Timber Oaks Estate addition. Planning Commission recommends denial.
This is a petition that we've had before the City Council. The applicant is Preston Metler, representing Timber Oaks Estates Development. This goes back actually in the fall of last year when the Planning Commission originally held their public hearing to consider a request of whether or not to allow a cul-de-sac of a residential street known as Quiet Oak Trail. Mr. Metler has started development of this property, which is actually located north of now what's going to be in the future a middle school and an elementary school developed by the Harrisburg School District. This particular area is on the west side of Western Avenue, just south of 90th Street on the south central part of the city. The issue here is the decision about whether or not this Quiet Oak Trail should connect to the proposed school district area. And as we've continued to talk with Mr. Metler about options, obviously his concern was the impact of having that through street in terms of the development of his subdivision. We've had discussions with the Harrisburg School District about it. We've looked at other potential options. And the last discussion that we had with Mr. Metler was that the school district is going to be meeting later this month to consider the potential sale of some of their land for residential development. And apparently Mr. Metler is one of the proposed buyers of the property. So the decision was made to request deferral of this again until the school district makes a decision on what their plans are for that adjoining property. So that's kind of a long background, but in talking with Mr. Metler, we'd like to request the council defer this again to the February 21st City Council meeting.
Council, any thought? Yes, Councilor Jameson.
I'd make the motion to defer till February 21st.
Thank you.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Jameson's made that motion to defer the item, seconded by Councilor Anderson, Jr. Is there any discussion, Council? Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item number 19.
A resolution creating tax incremental district number 14, City of Sioux Falls.
Good evening, Erica Beck with the Community Development Department. If possible, I'd like to present both items 19 and 20 together, but they will require separate action.
Go ahead. We do read that. Item number 20, Jamie.
A resolution approving the project plan for tax incremental district number 14, City of Sioux Falls.
Thank you. Erica?
Thank you. I'll just give you a bit of background here with regard to this project in general. The city issued an RFP for redevelopment of a city-owned surface parking lot on the East Bank in downtown Sioux Falls in December of last year. December of 2010. We received one proposal, and that was from River Greenway Hospitality LLC, which consists of Mr. Paul Haig and Mr. Craig Lloyd. Their proposal is to construct a 100-room hotel in place of the city-owned surface parking lot and the 50-year-old existing river ramp. Typical of many downtown sites, this site has a number of extraordinary development costs associated with its redevelopment. For example, in December of last year, soil borings were taken and indicated a minimum cost of at least $600,000 just in environmental remediation on the site. That does not account for an additional up to $150,000 in what Mr. Lloyd feels will be environmental dewatering costs on the site, again, due to environmental concerns. The types of extraordinary costs that are reimbursable through the establishment of a tax increment finance district are those which are very consistent with the redevelopment of this site, and is why we're bringing forward to you a consideration for a tax increment financing district tonight. Specifically, you are being asked to consider the boundary of the district. The proposed boundary, as it's indicated on the slide above, does not overlap any existing active TIF districts, although it is adjacent to the TIF 10 district that was established in 2010 for CNA Surety's construction. We specifically did not include the west bank of the Greenway because of the potential future redevelopment of that site. Both private and public opportunities exist, and we'll continue to explore those, but that's why that is not included within this proposed boundary. You are also being asked to consider the plan for the district. The total project costs are equal to roughly $23 million. That includes both private construction costs of $21.5 million and $2.5 million that are associated with Phase 2 of the River Greenway project. The base value of the district is just under $1 million, and after project completion, we anticipate that assessed valuation to increase to over $10 million. The minimum increment value that will be available to reimburse the developer for specific costs that are identified within the plan and on the slide above will be a minimum value of $2.6 million. But what I wanted to point out here, and you'll see this with many of the projects that we talk about specifically within downtown, when it comes to tax increment financing, is that the reimbursable costs are often much higher than what the increment is. And so we've identified reimbursable costs associated with this district of roughly $4.1 million. And those are all associated with environmental remediation on the site, 50% of the demolition costs associated with the river ramp, and then also for another existing structure on the site excavation, earthwork, fill, landscaping and public greenway access, construction, financing costs, legal costs, and streetscape reconstruction costs along 8th Street. I just wanted to provide to you a bit of information too with regard to the rest of the project. Update on the river ramp demolition. The city received, I'm proud to say, a signed permit from the Corps of Engineers this morning. So officially, as of this morning, the project has been permitted through the Corps of Engineers and demolition can move forward. And so we'll be working with the developer with regard to that. But we're very excited about that. We did not know how long it was going to take, and we're on track, we're on schedule, and I think everyone's happy about that. We are working with the development team to determine the start date of demolition. I know that everyone is anticipating when that's actually going to start, and we will be working with the developer with regard to that. Also, I just wanted to comment that all of the existing parkers in the river ramp now will be given a minimum of 30 days notice prior to the demolition starting. And so when we send that notice out to the existing tenants within the ramp, we'll also send that out to the council and the public just in general as well. Matt Nelson, who is our public parking manager, has been taking care of all the communications with those existing tenants and the relocation plan as well. An update on the hotel project. The application, I believe we've talked about this a little bit before, but the application for the Hilton Garden Inn was submitted at the end of December. That was submitted by Mr. Paul Haig and Mr. Lloyd. The development team is working with representatives of Hilton on the final design for the hotel, but as you see in the slide above, this is what was presented on November 1st. The application and fee for an alcohol license is due to the city on January 27th of this month, and that will be presented to the council for your consideration the first Monday in March, I believe. And then also just a comment with regard to this project, as soon as the river ramp demolition is completed, Phase 2 of the River Greenway will get started, and that is scheduled to start at the end of May, early June. They are coordinating with the development team as well so that those two projects can happen simultaneously. I believe that Mr. Lloyd and Mr. Haig and additional members of their team are in the audience if you have any questions specific to the hotel project. Otherwise, I can entertain any questions on the TIF.
Is there anyone in the audience who wanted to speak to this item before we go to the council? Mr. Lloyd, welcome.
Craig Lloyd, Lloyd Companies, 3130 West 57th Street, Suite 112. I'm just here to answer questions if you got any questions, and we're excited about this. Really excited to hear about the Corps of Engineers giving us a letter finally, so we're real happy.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Thank you. Council, yes, Councilor Rolfing, please.
Mr. Lloyd, just wanted to thank you for stepping forward, you and the Haigs, to put this kind of project together and getting that letter so quickly. I'm wondering if you can help us with the railroad.
That would be a great goal of mine.
Councilor Enneman.
Mr. Lloyd, could you give us a little idea of what your timeline might be?
Well, now that we have permission, we have diligently been working with our architects. We hired a designer because this isn't a, as Paul Haig always says, it's not off-the-shelf Hilton. I mean, we can't go to Plan 203 and say that's what we want to build because it doesn't fit on the site. It doesn't work in a downtown. So it's called more of an urban, I think, type setting. And so we have to have a special designer to help us through all the issues of the Hilton. We hope that we can get approval and an agreement with the city to get proceeding sometime mid-February and to start taking the ramp down, and we'll know more of that here in the next couple days. We hope to start the Hilton itself and do the excavation and get all the other things that we have to do starting sometime in mid-May, because Mr. Haig wants to have weddings there next May.
So next May. Yes, Councilor Buck.
I have to say thanks, too. This is a pretty amazing project. The question I have, though, is would you tell us a little bit what's meant by environmental remediation? What do you think you're going to have to do to that land once you get a hold of it? Once the river ramp is out of there, what happens to that land? And he laughs because it's a mess.
We found more than we wanted to find. Let's put it that way. There's some lead deposits in this land, and it's on the city property. And we have to figure out how to take that, and we're working with Geotech and the state environmental and your in-house environmental people to come up with a plan and how to mix it with the soil that's on the Shoneman site, because that's all clean, or as clean as we can figure out. We never know downtown. And once we find that out, we can mix it and haul it to your dump in a protected area in some of it, and some of it can be as backfill and different things for the dump area. The one thing that we have learned downtown is that there's water running underneath this great town, and we never know what's underneath that water. And we've experienced different contaminants in the CNA building that we've had to buy a pump and a filtering system that's between $30,000 and $40,000. And so we'll have that in the basement. We take that and filter it, and we're being told that I'll clean it enough to put into the sewer system to have it run through the normal channels. And but to run that machine and to test it every 3 months and do the things that we have to do is about a $12,000 to $15,000 a year expense that you wouldn't have to do any other places that I know of in Sioux Falls. So you just run into different things. We know about it. As Erica says, that's kind of why you need TIFs. I mean, and it's not cheap to develop downtown, but it's worth the effort. We're a firm believer that if downtown doesn't grow and we don't have a quality of life downtown, we're not going to have a great city like we all dream of. And as I made a statement earlier on, I want San Antonio to eat their heart out.
Thank you.
Lloyd, thank you. And to the Boy Scouts, again, just to simplify this, the white river ramp, which is a parking ramp just right down the road, this gentleman is going to tear it down legally. He's going to tear it down. And then that gentleman over there against the wall and this gentleman are going to build this new hotel there so that you boys can have your wedding receptions there someday. So, it'll be good.
And we're taking reservations right now.
We're taking reservations now. But, well, great. Mr. Lloyd, thank you. And Mr. Haig, yes, Councilor Jameson.
Mr. Haig or Mr. Lloyd, either one, can you tell me, this is a $23 million overall project? Is that the number I should remember? And how does this compare to the other one, the other hotel that's across 8th Street in size and scope?
This will be between 100 and 104 rooms, and we're still designing. We'll have an event area that'll hold right around 450 people. That doesn't. Of course, we'll have an indoor pool like they have. We have underground parking. They don't. They have parking challenges. And we're going 4 stories. You know, quality and style are all in the eyes of the beholder, but the Hilton has got a much higher standard than Clubhouse or Country Inn and Suites.
I just wanted to, as crazy as it might seem, but I took the 23 million and you divide it by 100-some rooms.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money per room.
Yeah.
And it's, I just can't underemphasize the risk and the investment that they're making downtown. I mean, that is enormous. And I just want to publicly state I hope the best of luck to you.
Mr. Hagan are kind of insane anyway, so that's the reason.
Right, I think so. Good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wanted to speak to this anymore?
Mr.
Very
Mayor.
good. Councilor Entman.
One thing, Craig, I guess what we've found in developing downtown, as we all know, in Erica, and they brought it up to us time after time, that it's a lot more expensive to redevelop the downtown area than it is in the outlying areas. And it's probably really fair to say that our founding fathers, the people that came before us in this community, were really not good stewards of our property or of our lands. And that's one thing I believe that this government, and of course, and the governments I hope that come later than us, are going to continue to be very aware of what's happening in our community.
Yeah, our forefathers weren't as kind to the environment as we are.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Very good.
Thank you.
Council, would anybody like to make a motion on this item?
Move to approve, Brown.
Councilor Edmonds made a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Brown, on item number 19, which will create the tax incremental district number 14. And if there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Brown, would you like to make a motion on item number 20?
Move to approve item number 20.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Brown's made a motion to approve item number 20, seconded by Councilor Anderson, Jr. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 21.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by revising Chapter 14 of the Campaign Finance Ordinance for municipal elections.
Sue, welcome.
Thank you. Sue Roust, Interim City Clerk. The action before you tonight would make changes to the city's election ordinances to bring them in conformance with state law changes from 2010 and 2011. In the time I've been serving as your interim city clerk, I have reviewed our election ordinances, compared them with current state law, and read all the minutes from the Public Service Committee and informational meetings during the 2007 to 2009 timeframe when significant changes were made to our city's campaign finance ordinances. When the major rewrite of the ordinance was done in 2007, it is clear from reading those minutes that there was a desire to conform to state statute wherever possible while adding more stringent reporting requirements for the city. We require more campaign finance reports to be submitted before elections, and we also have some lower limits on campaign contributions. In 2008 and 2009, new ordinances were adopted to incorporate state law changes that took place in those years. However, the changes in the 2010 and 2011 state laws have never been incorporated into our city ordinances. And unfortunately, we had some pretty significant changes in those 2 years. In early 2010, there was a Supreme Court ruling, Citizens United versus the FEC, that said that corporations can make independent expenditures for election-related communications. And in 2011, the South Dakota legislature passed a law allowing corporations to contribute to political action committees. The proponents of that law change gave as their main rationale that it would allow small businesses organized as corporations to participate in the political process. At the time, small businesses organized as partnerships could contribute to PACs, but small businesses organized as corporations could not. Supporters included the South Dakota Chamber of Commerce, South Dakota Retailers Association, South Dakota Truckers Association, South Dakota Auto Dealers Association, and the Associated General Contractors. I wish these changes had been brought to you several months before this, when we are not getting ready to enter into the 2012 election cycle. But since that was not done, and since I will not be here after the election to bring them to you at that time, this is my chance. And so I am bringing to you my proposals to change our city ordinance to bring it into conformance with state law in those areas. If you choose to move this item to a second reading on February 6th, and if it would be adopted that night, it would take effect March 1st. Unfortunately, we have filings for city council positions, which will start next week, Friday, January 27th, and the petition deadline is February 24th. So what I would like to do now is give you a summary of these changes and how each of them would impact candidates in the 2012 election. We also will prepare that information in a handout that we will give to all candidates so they'll be fully informed of the proposed changes. I would also note that even though this item was walked in tonight, it was posted on the website with your agenda for last week. The only reason it was walked in is that it was approved to be forwarded to you at your Public Services Committee meeting last Monday. And as your ordinance currently stands, the deadline to get items to the next week's agenda is Monday morning. That committee meets Monday afternoon, and so it was past agenda deadline. In addition, as I said, I read through all the discussions from back in the past years, and I identified 5 people who were either on the council at that time or very interested public citizens, and I sent each of them in advance the proposed changes with an explanation of it and an invitation to them to give any input they wished. I only heard back from one of those people, Joel Rosenthal, and he said that, well, he didn't think it was necessarily needed to be changed right now. He didn't see anything wrong with the changes. I have not heard back from the other 4. Before I go into those details in this PowerPoint presentation, I do want to emphasize that the ordinance changes being proposed include no substantive changes to contribution limits or reporting requirements for either candidates, candidate committees, or ballot issue committees. In other words, they basically will not affect the candidates running in this year's election. Now I'd like to show you specifically what the changes are so I can explain that. Let's see if I can get this to work. Okay, I'm just going to go through this section by section. Hopefully I won't take too long. We're talking about Chapter 14 of our city ordinance. Sections 1450 through 1485 are our election ordinance. Section 1450 is kind of it was just one I saw as an oversight. The title requires persons circulating initiatives or referenda to register with the city clerk's office. Unfortunately, the ordinance itself doesn't say anything about referendums, just initiatives. And so the change would require persons registering to circulate both referendum and initiative petitions to register with the city clerk's office. And this is not meant to be something onerous. The benefits of registering are that, first of all, the clerk's office can help the citizens confirm that they've got the correct wording on their petition, so that, assuming they get all the signatures they need, there will be no problems with it. And additionally, sometimes people call and want to be in touch with people who are circulating petitions. This just allows us to have a contact number. Bottom line, impact for the 2012 election, no impact. We don't, unless somebody comes up with a referendum petition in the next couple of months, no impact. The next section, definitions, section 1451. There are two definitions that are having some change. Our definition of candidate is a little bit different than the state's, and to avoid confusion, I would suggest that it makes sense to go to following the state's. The big difference is that at the state level, a person does not become a candidate simply by announcing that they're running for office. They become a candidate when they raise or spend $500, or when they file for office or create a campaign committee. That's typically the way people become candidates. And so this change would, the primary effect would be, the definition of candidate is important, because when you become a candidate, then you have 15 days to file a couple of forms. However, everybody running in 2012 will have filed by February 24th, so this has no impact on the 2012 election. There is one other definition change, come on here, and that is a recognized business entity, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. That is a new definition that brings in corporations and allows them to have some participation in campaign finance. Okay, section 1453, a little more technical. PACs, political action committees, that file with another state, the FEC or the IRS would not need to file a statement of organization in this state. Currently, PACs filing with the Secretary of State are exempt from the requirement to file anything further. The reason the state changed this 2 years ago at the recommendation of then Secretary Chris Nelson was that that PAC information from other states and the FEC and the IRS is all available online, just as is that from the South Dakota Secretary of State. So the same rationale was, if they filed anywhere, we have access to that statement of organization. The impact on the 2012 election is some PACs that may previously have had to file with the Secretary of State will not, but it's because we can still access their information elsewhere. Section 1455, I think this had to be a typo a couple of years ago. The requirement that a candidate sign their statement of organization was taken out of our ordinance. And the statement of organization is where the candidate names their committee chair and their treasurer. I think it's pretty important for the candidate to attest to that fact. So any statements filed on or after March 1st, when the new law takes effect, would require the candidate's signature. I think that's pretty minimal impact. Most people will have filed their statements of organization before that time. Section 1457 and 1465, this is where brings in the corporations may now contribute to PACs. One of my concerns at this point is right now we've got a state law that says corporations can contribute to PACs. We have a city law, city ordinance that says corporations cannot contribute to PACs. So, impact. Until March 1st, whether or not this passes, we are going to advise candidates that if they receive any PAC contributions, they will need to verify that that PAC received no corporate donations before accepting the contribution to be in conformance with our ordinance. If the ordinance passes, this would not be necessary after March 1st because we'd be back in conformance with state law, which allows corporations to contribute to PACs. 1463, this is independent expenditures by persons or organizations for election communications. That's not somebody contributing to your campaign or to a PAC. It's somebody or some organization taking out an ad in the local newspaper saying, please vote for or against so-and-so because of, and giving reasons. They need to file communication statements saying that they are independent of the candidate. That's the one that corporations could not be involved in before, but they are now. Organizations can now make independent expenditures for election contributions. Previously, only individuals and nonprofits could do this. All communications must now include an identifying disclaimer, and that was not the case before. So right now, if somebody puts an independent communication on the radio or on TV or in the paper, they don't have to say who it's from until they reach a certain threshold. When the law was changed, our current Secretary of State, Jason Gant, felt strongly that we needed to have everybody make a disclaimer so you would know who was making those statements in the media. And so now, no matter what the amount, it has to include a disclaimer. However, it did raise from $1,000 to $2,000 the threshold, which requires a communication statement, which is a more extensive written report. The impact on the 2012 election is, as of March 1st, if this passes, all independent communications would require a disclaimer. This is the one that I've talked to our city attorney about, and I think we both share the same concern that we currently have an ordinance that does not allow this type of independent expenditure by organizations. That restriction has been ruled unconstitutional by the United States Supreme Court. Should anybody want to test that ordinance, if we do not change it, I have a feeling that we would be in a position of having an indefensible ordinance. And so that is why I would recommend that one being changed. Almost to the end here. Filing deadlines. Just wanted to clarify them a little. This is what the ordinance reads like right now. This is one of the filing deadlines. Within 3 business days pursuant to the following schedule, within 3 business days after December 31st. We're proposing to change that to within 3 business days following and complete through December 31st. And the other dates as they go along, there are several of them. The impact on the 2012 election is, I believe, it would alleviate confusion for candidates. We do get questions about, well, when exactly is this report through? Is it through the 3 days after? Is it through the date? This would, I believe, just clarify it and make it less confusing for candidates. Now, sections 1478 through 1480 have been added at the request of the city attorney. This is part of a several-pronged approach to make some changes to our ethics ordinances. And there is wording in the election ordinances about violations and who looks into them, investigates them. The city attorney feels that the group that would more appropriately investigate violations by current city elected officials would be the Board of Ethics, not the city attorney. And so these 3 sections, 1478 through 80, basically say that if there are allegations of violations of campaign finance ordinance by current elected officials, those would be funneled to the Board of Ethics instead of the city attorney. The impact on 2012 election, any complaints filed on or after March 1st would be directed to the Board of Ethics. In summary, I believe that these are important changes that I would hope you would look favorably upon and pass on for a second reading on February 6th. I honestly do not believe that any of them will negatively impact any candidates running for office this year, and we will do everything we can to make sure that the candidates understand what the changes are, what the potential changes are. So I'm prepared to take any questions, should there be any.
Thank you. Council, any questions or motions of Ms. Roust? Councilor Urbanbach.
Move approval.
Second Intimate.
Councilor Urbanbach has made a motion to set a hearing and second reading for Monday, February 6th at 7 p.m. for this item. It was seconded by Councilor Intimate. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Entenmann?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 22.
A motion to create the appointed position of Legislative Operations Manager to perform professional, administrative, and communication work in the coordination of the management of the day-to-day operations of the City Council and serve as liaison and professional staff support to the Sioux Falls City Council while monitoring and analyzing legislative activities on a federal, state, and local level with a full job description to be on file with the Human Resources Department, and to create a pay scale for the Legislative Operations Manager with a minimum biweekly range of $2,292.80 and a maximum biweekly range of $3,300.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor
Could I ask that the Assistant City Clerk be asked to read item 23 as well so that we can discuss them together even though we do vote separately?
A motion to revise the job duties of the appointed position of City Clerk to perform administrative, professional, and communication work in the management of the day-to-day operations and activities of the City Clerk's office with a full job description to be on file with the Human Resources Department, and to create a pay scale for the City Clerk with a minimum biweekly range of $1,936 and a maximum biweekly range of $2,727.20.
Jamie, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Buck.
I would like to address both of these items together, please.
Thank you.
I first wanted to just remind the council that Council Chair Aguilar appointed a committee, an ad hoc staffing committee, after the change in the leadership in the City Clerk's office, and that committee worked several weeks at length, doing lots of extra homework. And I wanted to thank them for their service in that group. Councilor Rex Rolfing, Councilor Vernon Brown, Councilor Greg Jameson, and myself all worked together on that, and surprisingly came together well and did some amazing things, I think. The number one thing that we looked at to begin with was the mission and the vision of the City Clerk's office. We spent a lot of time talking about customer service and our expectations for our staff. And so the proposal that you see now in these two motions would create, it doesn't do anything to change the number of people in the City Council staff, but it does change the roles of the City Clerk, and it creates a new position called the Legislative and Operations Manager. What our main goal was, again, was customer service, and we talked about that idea of what the City Clerk really means to the rest of the community, and thank you, Interim Clerk Roust has put the organization chart up there for you, and I'll talk about the colors in just a minute. But we talked about that idea that the City Clerk is one of those two positions that are named in the city charter that are really employed by the entire city. They aren't just serving the council. They aren't just serving the mayor. They are serving the entire city. And so we want that position of City Clerk to maintain its neutrality. It is an apolitical position. It is a position that has to be ready to serve not only council members, but administration, directors, the mayor, and citizens alike. And so we've talked at length about, as a committee, about this idea of creating that City Clerk as that separate, standalone, neutral position. Then if you'll see on the org chart, the orange triangle then is that sort of what I've been calling that sacred City Clerk position, has two assistant City Clerks, and that really is the way that office functions at this point. There are 3 assistant City Clerks currently. They all work in that position where you see Mrs. Jamie Palmer this evening, and they work these meetings for us. They do the minutes, they run the SIRE, the website, all of those things. Those 3 people, that City Clerk and 2 assistant City Clerks, would continue to perform those functions. And then if you look at the blue section, that Legislative Operations Manager that's on that far right, that would be the person then that, as we all know, this is a part-time city council. Every one of us has full-time jobs outside this room, and we all are in a position where once in a while we need some help. We need somebody to bounce off ideas on legislation. We need help with setting up meetings, or we need some help with research. There's all kinds of things that are needed in that position. And we've talked about, and you'll see it in the way that the motion is worded, that person would do professional, administrative, and communication work in coordination of the management of the day-to-day operations of the City Council, and serve as liaison and professional staff support to the Sioux Falls City Council, while monitoring and analyzing legislative activities on a federal, state, and local level, with a full job description to be on file with the Human Resources Department. And it includes the pay scale, which is sort of a manager position within the city. We've looked at that and made that sort of something that works in the system. And so the other thing that's new on that org chart, because I know that you're looking at it in the audience, and you're looking at it online and on television, the other thing that you'll see there is the creation of an operations committee. And what that does then for the city council is it spreads out that role of leadership. The city council traditionally has elected a chair and a vice chair every year, but that role hasn't been well defined. We do have an operations manual that kind of guides us, but lots of things are kind of left up to by guess and by golly. And so we created the operations committee to include the chair and the vice chair currently sitting, and then the most recent chair, recent past chair, and then a fourth member to be elected by the council to, again, spread out that role, to then also serve as the supervisory position over the city clerk and the legislative and operations manager, and to keep that operations manual up to date and do the things that need to happen outside the realm of the day-to-day work of the council. The thing that we have to understand is, and you'll see there are only 3 committees listed up there. There are still the Land Use Committee and Public Services Committee, but they don't oversee staff in any way, and so I didn't put them in the chart. But the proposal does not take away any of the council's traditional power to act as the policy, banking, and legislative branch of the city government. Rather, as I said, the role of this operations committee would be to actively advocate for the council's ongoing needs to make it as effective as possible while spreading some of the roles of leadership over a broader cross-section of the council. And then just one final thing, as I said, it doesn't change the number of people in that office, but we will be advertising beginning this week, assuming that we approve this evening, advertising both the city clerk position and the legislative and operations manager position. And depending on how we end up filling those positions, if we fill one internally, it changes things. If we fill them both externally, it's a little bit different. But either way, we save between $10,000 and $15,000 out of our annual budget. I thought that was kind of an interesting little side note. So if there are questions from the council, I would gladly entertain them.
Nice job, Councilor Bach. Thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience who wanted to speak to these 2 items, number 22 and number 23? Very good. Council, any questions of Councilor Bach? Councilor Enneman.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to applaud the committee for the work they did on this. They took it very seriously. What I found since I've been elected is that the council and the demands on the council by the public has really changed. Because of technology and the need for the people to be more informed about what's happening, the transparency that's required by everybody in today's government, I think that the direction that the committee went with this, I think, is going to serve this community well, and I do applaud them. They did a great job.
Nice job. Council, any other questions? Or
Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Anderson, Jr.
On this, the Operations Committee, that is an advisory committee, or is that going to be a supervisory committee?
You know, absolutely. I think, if I might, Mr. Mayor, I think you can answer that question both ways. It is absolutely an advisory committee in terms of the looking at staff reviews and those sorts of things, but that committee will never do anything without the full consent of the council, just like any other committee is going to do. If there are things that the fiscal committee wants to have happen, they can't just do it on their own. You know, it is only 4 members of the council. It can't just act without full consent of the council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor.
I move approval.
Very good.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Rolfing.
One at a time for 22.
Okay, and we're going to start with number 22, Councilor Rolfing.
Yes, number 22.
Councilor Rolfing's made a motion to approve item number 22. It was seconded by Councilor Karski. Very good. Is there any further discussion on this item? Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Is there another motion? Yes.
Move
Councilor
approval on 23, please.
Councilor Rolfing's made a motion to approve item number 23.
Second, Karski.
Seconded by Councilor Karski. Councilor Erpenbach?
Just one more thing that I forgot to mention and that the public will want to know is that I did say that we're posting this, assuming approval, posting it the end of this week, it'll appear in the local newspaper on Sunday. The closing date for both of these positions will be February 3rd, and we will plan to hire, hopefully, our goal, our dream is mid-March to the early part of April to have people in place.
Councilor Buck, thank you. And also, my understanding is not only is this a budget savings of $15,000, you are keeping your FTE flat.
Yes, absolutely. There are no changes in the number of folks that we'll be employing. That's
Okay.
right.
Thank you very much. There is a motion that has been made on item number 23. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Council, is there any further business you'd like to conduct tonight?
Move to adjourn.
I do
Councilor Anderson,
have
Jr.
something I want to bring up, Mayor. During our public testimony,
Yes.
we have the city clerk sitting next to the podium where people are giving their public testimony with a timekeeping piece. What I'm going to ask respectfully is that before she allows that timepiece to go off and buzz like that, it's hard enough for citizens to come up and testify. Maybe like 5 seconds before that goes off, she can just shut it off and give you a signal that it's past 5 minutes. I think it's sort of rude to the public to have that thing buzzing next to them. And it's concerned me. And I've had a few other citizens also express that too. I'm not against the timepiece. I'm just against what's happening there at the end of it.
And that is not my decision, team. That's the city council's decision, and I'll let them hash that out, and I'll just do whatever they tell me to do.
Thank you.
Very good. And with that in mind, thank you. There is a motion to adjourn.
Second Aguilar.
There is a second. Very good. With that in mind, I want to thank the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts and the leaders for being here. People of Sioux Falls, if you would peer off into the audience, no one left. All these Boy Scouts stayed the entire time, which is very commendable on their part. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach, Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Great job, City Council. Make